Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Wright, Senior White House Correspondent of CBN News. I'm not in Washington right now, but I'm in Dallas, Texas. You might be wondering why. Well, it's because we were invited here by the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner, to have a sit-down interview with him to discuss homelessness in America and to also talk about how the Trump administration is dealing with housing in America. Here now is my interview with Secretary Turner. Mr. Secretary, it's a pleasure to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations on your post, and we're meeting here in Dallas, Texas, someplace that you know very well, by the way.
My great hometown. Yes, sir. Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to be seen and to talk to you about the important nature of your job. You're here for a couple of reasons, and one was to have a roundtable discussion with our calling. What's your purpose in coming here in terms of HUD and the vision that you have for this country?
Well, you know, we have a homelessness crisis in our country. And our calling, along with our other stakeholders that were here for the roundtable, are doing a tremendous job as it pertains to meeting the needs of our homeless neighbors. Our calling provides services not only for the unsheltered, but also for clothing and shower and health care. And they partner with some of the groups we met with today for the wraparound services. And one thing, when you think about homelessness, a lot of times people think about the shelter, which it is, but it's so much more. We want to look at it from a holistic standpoint. What about the mental health issues? What's the root of homelessness? What about addiction services? And so not only is it the sheltered, but it's also how do we help people not only get off the streets, but to get rehabilitated, to get treated. What about the faith issue? What about the family issue? And not just to stay in a homeless shelter, but to help them to be on a trajectory of self-sustainability. And so I came to listen to the groups that are here about what they're doing in their particular services and how we can partner with them and maybe be a facilitator and a supporter of them. And then lastly, to give our vision for HUD as it pertains to our mission in carrying out the assignment we've been called to.
I hear a couple of things in your answer, your response to my question. One is that HUD is willing to work with all of government and private sector to meet the needs to address and alleviate the stress fractures from homelessness. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We want to look at it from a whole of government standpoint, working not just the federal government, but also the state government and local entities. The public-private partnerships are tremendous when it comes to solutions on the ground. Take, for instance, our calling. They're here every single day doing the work and the mission. The federal government is not the answer. The federal government is a great facilitator, but places like our calling, places, other nonprofits, other faith-based organizations, they have boots on the ground and hands to the plow. And so we want to make it easier for those organizations to work with the government to have solutions-based outcomes. So that when we talk about homelessness, we can say we are decreasing homelessness. There's an 18% increase in homelessness in our country right now. We want to decrease that. We want to eradicate homelessness. We want to help people not only get on their feet, but live life of sustainability.
That takes a lot of effort. And in this economy right now, we have DOGE operating. What aspects have you done in launching a task force on DOGE to find the waste, fraud, and abuse so that you can deal with that and then be able to free up your staff and your agency to deal with homelessness?
So we have a DOGE task force at HUD. The gentlemen from DOGE, they're part of HUD. They work with HUD. They work for HUD. We're all one team. And they've done a tremendous job in helping our team at HUD to identify waste, fraud, and abuse. $260 million in contract savings, $1.9 billion in misplaced fundings that has accrued over the past several years. And so working together with DOGE and our team at HUD, we're identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. For that $1.9 billion, for instance, we de-obligated that and sent it back to the Treasury so it can be used for other federal expenditures, if you will, to serve the American people. And so we have a great working relationship. We want to be stewards, faithful stewards of taxpayer dollars at HUD. We have a very focused mission at HUD in serving the most vulnerable people. So we're very detailed and deliberate about every dollar, every resource that comes in and goes out of HUD to make sure that we're appropriately and effectively not only carrying out our mission, but serving those we've been called to serve.
Now in doing that, you also have some policy initiatives and objectives. Talk to me about that, because I know one is deregulation and putting homelessness and other housing issues in control of the local sectors.
That's exactly right. You know, the federal government is not the solution, as we talked about before. The federal government should not pick winners and losers. We want to restore the power and the flexibility and the control back to the localities. Regulations have hindered and crippled the housing affordability issue we have in our country. There's so many barriers to building affordable housing. And so we want to reduce the amount of regulations, both from a federal standpoint and from a state and local standpoint, to unleash the creativity, to unleash the capital, to unleash the ingenuity of private developers around our country. We're putting in other cost-saving controls at HUD, and part of that is deregulation. We took down a rule it was a Biden-Obama era called AFFH, Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. This was really social engineering of neighborhoods. It was Washington telling Dubuque, Iowa, or Chicago, Illinois, hey, this is a regional aspect. You need to treat your neighborhoods as the same. Those are two totally different places. And so we took that down to restore the power back to the localities, because they know their needs. Every locality, every neighborhood is unique, and they know what they need. And so it's not the federal government's job to tell you how to zone neighborhoods. And so when we took that down, that was an example of taking down regulatory barriers.
I understand you're also looking for ways to expand the opportunity for more housing to be built, because land space is very important. My understanding is that you're partnering with the Department of Interior. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So Secretary Burgum, the Secretary of Interior, his team and myself and our team at HUD are forming a task force to identify underutilized federal lands to build affordable housing. And so we signed an MOU together as a partnership to work with one another and to work with states and obviously with Congress to identify these lands that we can build more affordable housing. Now, this doesn't mean building on our beautiful national parks. There's about 400 million plus acres of underutilized federal lands that we're identified and looking at to where we can help with the housing affordability crisis and the lack of affordable housing. We need about 7 million units of housing in our country.
That's substantial.
And so we're being very creative under the president's leadership and utilizing the resources that we do have.
7 million.
Yes, sir.
Opportunity zones. That was something that was always near and dear to you and the president during his previous administration. Is that still one of your priorities now?
It absolutely is. The expansion and the continuation of opportunity zones is very important. Opportunity zones over the last 5 years, since their inception, have realized about $84 billion in capital investments and private money investments inside of opportunity zones. One stat that I really love is 1 million people were lifted out of poverty inside of opportunity zones. So that's 1 million people.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Secretary, but can you state that number again so people listening to this will not gloss over that, but actually understand how opportunity zones have helped?
Yes, sir. So 1 million people have been lifted out of poverty just inside of opportunity zones in our country. So you're thinking about 1 million individuals and families that are on a trajectory that is life-changing. And opportunity zones are the vehicle by which that was provided. And home values inside of opportunity zones went up and rents did not. People living inside of opportunity zones were able to build a better foundation, live in better housing, start new operating businesses, jobs being created, new business on the first-time business owners in opportunity zones have the opportunity, if you will, to own their own business, workforce training. And so when you look at these statistics and you look at really the data and the facts that are coming out of opportunity zones, how could you not expand them? And also help us in building more affordable housing, creating new operating businesses and jobs. And so working with Senator Tim Scott and his colleagues in the White House and others, we're looking forward to the expansion of those.
How can the private sector or people watching this participate with you in that endeavor?
Well, you know, we're doing all the legwork right now. We're working with Congress for the expansion of it. And obviously the governors, the territory leaders, the tribal leaders, because HUD, we deal with rural, tribal, and urban. Opportunity zones are in all three of those. And so there's state responsibility, there's leadership responsibility, there's federal responsibility. And so I would say get studied up and learning about opportunity zones. If those that are listening are interested, get to what is an opportunity zone? How do you get involved with it? What is a qualified opportunity zone fund? That's the vehicle by which you invest in opportunity zones. So I would say do a lot of studying, ask questions, send correspondence, and see if we can help you.
I've got to ask you, what's the purpose and vision of HUD?
HUD's mission is to serve the most vulnerable people in our country. We meet people right where they are. Housing is not political. Housing is not Republican, it's not Democrat. It impacts every individual and every family in America. And I love that. And so we are mission-minded at HUD to serve those that we've been called to serve, not only in housing, but in homelessness, in disaster recovery. And our mission is not to grow the amount of people that are on government subsidies, but to take people off of government subsidies, to help them get skills and workforce so that their life can be on a trajectory to where they are self-sustaining. And so that's the mission. It's very simple. And we're really excited about it, very humble to have this seat to be a steward. So great days ahead.
Look, I want to thank you for the opportunity of being able to talk to us at CBN News. My final question for you, what is your hope for America, and how does your faith in God propel you to show that hope to Americans?
You know, the Bible says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And my hope is that we all recognize the sovereignty of Christ. We all recognize the blessings of God, the grace of God, and that we live in the greatest country on earth, and that it is our responsibility to give him honor and praise and reverence, and also to steward well over this great country. We're getting ready to celebrate 250 years. That is a blessing from our Father in heaven. So my faith drives me, it wakes me up every day, excites me, and also encourages and challenges me that I'm to fulfill the Great Commission and be a blessing to my generation.
I'd like to thank the Housing Urban Development Agency as well as Secretary Scott Turner for allowing us to come to Dallas, Texas to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk about homelessness, about housing needs in America. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch. For more news developments as they unfold and break throughout the world, be sure you watch CBN News. I'm Kelly Wright.